The topic to be discussed are measuring blood pressure with a sphygmomanometer, testing blood sugar level by blood glucose meter, blood group determination, and hemoglobin test. As this is a 2 days online course, we will discuss two topics each day. So, for the first day, we will be discussing measuring blood pressure with a sphygmomanometer and testing blood sugar level by blood glucose meter. So, now let's jump into the first topic, which is measurement of blood pressure. You all must be knowing what a blood pressure is. This is a very common topic. So, to measure the blood pressure, this is a picture which is showing how a blood pressure is measured. You need a stethoscope. So, this is the diaphragm of the stethoscope, which is placed at the origin of the pulse, and these are the earpieces. So, which will help you to hear the pulses. Now, after the stethoscope, the important thing is to know about sphygmomanometer. So, the sphygmomanometer has a mercury level. This is the mercury level, which will help you to take the reading. And this is the inflatable cuff, which will be inflated with the help of the rubber bulb. So, this rubber bulb, as you press it, it will fill air into the cuff and occlude the pulse. And as you release the knob, so this is the knob which you will use to tighten or to release. So, with the help of this knob, you'll be filling air into the cuff and or releasing the air from the cuff. The amount of pressure in the cuff will be equal to the blood pressure in the blood vessels. Next, so what is blood pressure? As the name suggests, blood and pressure. The blood flow through the vessels and exert pressure on the walls of the vessels. This thing is known as blood pressure. Sometimes, due to various reasons such as increase in the cholesterol levels, the width of this particular blood vessel gets narrowed down, and at this time the pressure of the blood on the walls of the vessel increases. This creates a very high pressure on the walls of the vessels, and thus this is known as high blood pressure. To know about blood pressure, you should be thorough about two things: systolic pressure and diastolic pressure. So, what is a systolic pressure? Whenever the ventricles are contracted, all the blood from these ventricles move to the blood vessels, and this results in a great pressure in the blood vessels. This is known as the systolic pressure. When these ventricles are relaxed, so whenever the ventricle relaxes, the blood from the vessels come back into the ventricle, and at that time the remaining blood exerts pressure on the blood vessels, and that is known as the diastolic pressure. So, it does make sense that systolic pressure is the upper limit and diastolic pressure is the lower limit. Let us talk about the normal blood pressure, which is systolic pressure by diastolic pressure, and which is normally 120 by 80 mmHg. Let us take an example. Ideal blood pressure is considered to be between 90 by, so this is the fact that the ideal blood pressure is considered to be between 90 by 60 mmHg and 120 by 80 mmHg. So here is a graph which will be showing you the same thing. So ideal blood pressure for systolic is 90 to 120 and diastolic is 60 to 80 mmHg. So high blood pressure is considered to be 140 to 90 mmHg. So high blood pressure is considered to be 140 to by 90 mmHg. So this is the range for high blood pressure. This is for the normal, the pre-high blood pressure, and this is the range for ideal blood pressure. And anything below this is the range for low blood pressure, which is considered to be 90 by 60 mmHg or lower. High blood pressure. So, high blood pressure we have discussed earlier. It is often related to unhealthy lifestyle habits such as smoking, drinking too much alcohol, being overweight, and not exercising enough. Left untreated, high blood pressure can increase your risk of developing a number of serious long term health conditions such as coronary heart diseases, kidney diseases. So, this is going to be very risky. So, you should maintain your health and maintain your blood pressure. Low blood pressure is less common. Some medicines, such as low blood pressure, can cause low blood pressure as a side effect. So, this is also to be kept in mind. So let us jump into the main thing which we are going to discuss in this online course is the procedure of all the physiological tests which would help you in your day to day life. So how a blood pressure is measured? So first of all, the patient must be relaxed and the cuff must be wrapped around the arm above the elbow over the branchial artery. So this is the branchial artery. Before this, let us know about the instrument used and the blood pressure, about something about branchial artery. So let's start. So instrument used to measure blood pressure are sphygmomanometer and a stethoscope. So it has been explained to you earlier. I'm explaining it once again. So the stethoscope consists of a diaphragm and an earpiece. The diaphragm is placed at the origin of the pulse and the earpiece in the ear to hear the pulse. The sphygmomanometer consists of the mercury level, which will help you to obtain the reading, the rubber bulb, which will help you to pump air into the cuff, and the cuff. These cuff are available in different sizes in the market. So whatever suits you, you can buy one if you have a sphygmomanometer. Next, blood pressure is measured by branchial artery. So, what is the branchial artery? The branchial artery is the major blood vessel of the upper arm, and this is the cubital fossa where your diaphragm of the stethoscope is to be placed. So, you will be wrapping this cuff over this part of the arm and the diaphragm at the cubital fossa. So, the first step is you'll have to wrap the cuff over the arm and you'll have to place the diaphragm at the cubital fossa. So, and as soon as you place the stethoscope, the diaphragm of the stethoscope on the cubital fossa, you'll able to hear the pulse. Now, pump the air into the cuff by the rubber bulb. Thus, the cuff inflates and the pulse is occluded. And then later, release the air from the rubber bulb and carefully listen to the sound. So, the first sound which you'll hear will be the systolic pressure. As you can see, there are various sounds known as the Kortkopf sounds. So, the first sound you'll be hearing will be the systolic pressure, which will be around 120 mmHg. And then there will be variations in the sounds, a blowing noise, a soft thud, and then later, at the point of disappearance of the sound, the last sound you'll be hearing will be the diastolic pressure. So at this point of time, you'll have to be very careful while listening to the pulses. Next, as this chart has been already explained to you, so the normal blood pressure range has been given, the high blood pressure range has been given, and accordingly. And as it has been told that various diseases associated with blood pressure can be very dangerous. So it is important for you to maintain your blood pressure. And it is important to know basics about blood pressure, as whenever you visit your doctor, the first thing they often do is check your blood pressure. This is an important step because your blood pressure is a measure of how hard your heart is working. Your heart is a muscle about the size of your fist. It's made up of four chambers and contain four valves. The valves open and close to let blood move through the chamber and into and out of your heart. According to the American Heart Association, your heart beats 60 to 100 times per minute, or about 100,000 times per day. As it beats, blood is forced against your artery walls. Your systolic blood pressure is the top number on your reading. It measures the force of blood against your artery walls, while your ventricles, the lower two chambers of your heart, squeeze, pushing blood out of to the rest of your body. Your diastolic blood pressure is the bottom number on your reading. It measures the force of blood against your artery walls as your heart relaxes and ventricles are allowed to refill with blood. Diastole, this period of time when your heart relaxes between beats, is also the time that your coronary artery is able to supply blood to your heart. Blood pressure ranges. So, there are various blood pressure ranges as it has been told to you in this online course again and again. It is a very basic thing which you should know. Your blood pressure may be normal, high, or low. High blood pressure is also referred to as hypertension, and low blood pressure is called as hypotension. The American Heart Association describes the different blood pressure ranges for adults as normal, less than 120 systolic and 80 diastolic, elevated 120 to 129 systolic and less than 80 diastolic. Stage 1 hypertension will be 130 to 139 systolic or 80 to 89 diastolic. Stage 2 of hypertension is at least 140 systolic or at least 90 diastolic. Hypertensive crisis higher than 180 systolic or higher than 120 diastolic. Hypotension can be 90 or less systolic or 60 or less diastolic. But these numbers can vary because symptoms help determine when blood pressure is too low. Your doctor may diagnose high blood pressure if either your systolic or diastolic is high, or if both numbers are high. They may diagnose low blood pressure by checking systolic and diastolic numbers along with evaluating your symptoms and age and what medications you are taking. High and low blood pressure risk factors. So, this is a very important thing. I hope you guys are paying attention to this, that there are various risk factors which could increase your or decrease your blood pressure. Both high blood pressure and low blood pressure need to be managed. Overall, it is much more common to have high blood pressure. According to the American College of Cardiology, almost half of the adults in the United States now fit the new definition of high blood pressure. Not surprisingly, the risk factors for these two conditions are very different. Risk factors for high blood pressure. Your gender affects your risk of high blood pressure. The American Heart Association states that men are at higher risk of high blood pressure than women are until age 64. But at 65 years and older, women are at higher risk than men. Your risk is also higher if you have a close relative with high blood pressure. You are African American, you are overweight or obese, you have diabetes, you have cholesterol, you have kidney disease. Your lifestyle also affects your risk level. Your risk is higher if you don't get much physical activity, you experience chronic stress, you drink too much alcohol, you smoke, your diet is high in salt, sugar, and fat. Sleep apnea is a risk factor for high blood pressure that's often overlooked. It's a condition that causes you to stop breathing or have ineffective breathing one or more times during sleep. When your breathing is inadequate, your oxygen level fall and your blood vessel constricts. This increases your blood pressure. When sleep apnea is persistent, this increased blood pressure may continue during the day when breathing is normal. Properly treating sleep apnea will help lower blood pressure. Risk factors for low blood pressure. If you are older than 65, you may be at risk of orthostatic hypotension, a condition which your blood pressure drops when you move from sitting to standing. Endocrine problems, neurological diseases, health problems, heart failure, and anemia may also cause the conditions. You may also be at risk for low blood pressure if you become dehydrated or take certain prescription drugs such as high blood pressure medications, diuretics, nitrates, anxiety or depression medication, erectile dysfunction medications. Low blood pressure can also be caused by a variety of heart, hormonal, or nervous system problems. These include thyroid problems, pregnancy, abnormal heart rhythms, abnormal heart valves, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, diabetes, spinal cord injury, multiple sclerosis, and Parkinson disease. Treating high or low blood pressure. So, how can you overcome these risk factors? Is a range of treatments are available for high or low blood pressure. Treating high blood pressure. Lifestyle changes are recommended as the first step in treating any stage of high blood pressure. These changes may include eliminating unhealthy food such as excess sugars and saturated fats from your diet, eating more healthy foods such as lean meat, fish, fruits, and vegetables and whole grains, cutting back on sodium in your diet, drinking more water, getting daily physical activity, quitting smoking, maintaining a healthy weight, reducing alcohol consumption, managing stress, monitoring your blood pressure regularly. In addition to these steps, consider whether you are taking medication that would be increasing your blood pressure, such as cold medicines, diet, pills, or medications for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. If you are, your doctor might recommend stopping that drug, changing medication, or adjusting your dosage. However, lifestyle changes and medication adjustments may not be enough to bring your blood pressure numbers down. If that's the case, or if you have stage 2 hypertension or have experienced hypertensive crisis, your doctor will likely prescribe one or more blood pressure medication. Commonly prescribed medication include diuretics, beta blockers, calcium channel blockers, angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors, angiotensin 2 receptor blockers, alpha blockers. The medication will be prescribed in addition to continued lifestyle changes. Treating low blood pressure. Treatment for blood pressure, low blood pressure depends on the cause of the condition. If a medication is causing your low blood pressure, your doctor may change your dosage of that drug or stop your treatment with it. If your low blood pressure is caused by an infection, your doctor might prescribe an antibiotic to treat the infection, or if it is caused by anemia, your doctor may prescribe iron or vitamin B12 as a supplement. If a medical condition or disease is causing your low blood pressure, it is important for your doctor to identify the specific cause. Proper management of the problem can help improve or limit episodes of low blood pressure. High or low blood pressure complications. So, there are various complications associated with high and low blood pressure. High blood pressure does not cause symptoms unless you are in hypertensive crisis. It actually known as a silent killer because it quietly damages your blood vessels and organs, and you may not realize you have it until the damage is done. Unmanaged high blood pressure can lead to stroke, heart failure, heart attack, vision problems, vision loss, kidney disease, sexual dysfunction, aneurysm. On the other hand, blood pressure that's too low will cause symptoms or complications that may occur from low blood pressure can include dizziness, fainting, seizures, chest pain, falling, loss of balance, nausea, thirst, inability to concentrate, headaches, blurred vision, fatigue, shallow breathing, shortness of breath, clammy skin, bluish tinged skin. Preventing blood pressure problems. So, how you are going to prevent the problems associated with blood pressure? You may head off blood pressure problems before they start or limit your risk if you follow a healthy lifestyle. Following the step listed above, treating high or low blood pressure can help protect you from developing high blood pressure. In addition, if you suspect you have sleep apnea symptoms such as heavy snoring, daytime sleepiness, or restless sleep, talk to your doctor about a sleep study. Sleep apnea is believed to affect at least 25 million people. Preventing low blood pressure. To help prevent low blood pressure, drink plenty of fluids, preferably water, to prevent dehydration. Stand up slowly from a sitting position to help prevent orthostatic hypotension. So, these are all the preventing measures of blood pressure. To not go into such a condition, what you can do is eat healthy, live healthy, and let your blood pressure be checked from your doctor once and time again. Next, we will be discussing testing blood sugar level by glucose meter. This picture which you see here is a glucose meter. So this is a glucose meter, and this which you can see is the strip from which you will be taking the blood with the help of a capillary action. So this is the point which you are going to touch on the drop of the blood, and this would take it inside with the help of the capillary action. Now this is the lancet device. You'll be injecting your lancet into this. Lancet is nothing but a pin which is used to prick your finger. So let us begin with this particular experiment. Before going into this experiment, let us discuss what is blood sugar level. So blood sugar level is very important to be checked because there are various people whose blood has a much more level of blood glucose than required. So there are two types of diabetes, as you all must be knowing, type 1 and type 2. So in type 1 diabetes, let us move to this particular chart where you will be seeing the various levels of blood sugar. So as you know, if if you are a normal person without a diabetic condition, your blood sugar level would be 80 to 100 in fasting condition, and if you just ate, your blood sugar level would be 170 to 200, and after 3 hours of eating it would be 120 to 140. But if your blood sugar level comes to be 100 to 101 to 125, you would be a pre-diabetic. All the things are shown on your screens, so please go through this. So the basic thing where you check the blood sugar level is for diabetes mellitus. So diabetes mellitus is a disease that prevents your body from properly using the energy from the food you eat. Diabetes occurs in one of the following situation. The pancreas, as you know, they produce insulin. Insulin is a naturally occurring hormone produced by the beta cells of the pancreas, which helps the body use sugar for energy. The pancreas make insulin, but the insulin made doesn't work as it should. This condition is called insulin resistance, which results in diabetes. So, there are two types of diabetes, type 1 and type 2. What is the type 1 diabetes? Let me explain you. Type 1 diabetes occurs because the insulin producing cells of the pancreas are damaged. In type 1 diabetes, the pancreas makes little or no insulin, so sugar can't get into the body's cells for use as energy. People with type 1 diabetes must use insulin injection to control their blood sugar. Type 1 is the most common form of diabetes in people who are under age 30, but it can occur at any age. What is type 2 diabetes? This is also known as adult onset diabetes. The pancreas make insulin, but it either doesn't produce enough or the insulin doesn't work properly. 9 out of there's a data that 9 out of 10 people with diabetes have type 2. This type occurs most people in people who are over 40 years old, but can occur even in childhood if there are risk factors present. Type 2 diabetes may sometimes be controlled with the combination of diet, weight management, and exercise. However, treatment also include oral glucose lowering medications or insulin injections, also known as shots. So let us know how you'll be measuring diabetes, which is the main objective of this online course. So you'll be requiring the alcohol wipes or anything which with the help of which you can sterile your hands, and a lancet. Lancet is nothing but a pin, a lancet device where the lancet would be injected, a test strip, and blood glucose meter. So these are the pictures. So these are the pictures what a test strip look like. If you'll follow this online course properly, you'll definitely get to know how you are going to measure blood pressure or measure the blood glucose level, or other two things which we will be discussing in the next day. So this is the test strip, and this is the lancet, which is also known as the needle. So this is the lancet device where you will be injecting this needle, and this is the glucose meter, and this is the alcohol swab. So let us begin with the procedure. So first of all, what you have to do is sterile your finger by alcohol wipes or wash your hands, and then just keep in mind that you'll have to dry your hands. Then later, take a test strip from the container. So there is a container which has lots of test strips, and you'll have to take one test strip, and you'll have to take a new test strip every time you measure your blood glucose level. Now, insert the test strip into the glucose meter. This is how you are going to insert this test strip into your glucose meter. Keep in mind that the part from where the capillary action will be done, you should not place that part inside the glucose meter. So do this proper thing carefully. So as I have told you earlier as well, so this is the part from where you will be taking the blood drop with the help of capillary action. So this should be placed outside, and the other part should be placed inside. So this is the part, this black part, long black part is going to be inserted inside the blood glucose meter. Next, placing a new lancet into the lancing device. So this is also to be kept in mind that use a new needle every time you measure your blood glucose, as needle is the main thing which can cause infection. So use a new needle every time you measure your blood glucose. How you are going to use the lancing device is remove the cap of your lancing device, insert lancet into your lancing device, and twist off the rounded cap of the lancet so that you could expose the needle of the lancet. Now pierce your fingertip on the soft, fleshy pad by the loaded lancing device and obtain a drop of blood. So, as soon as you obtain a drop of blood, touch the correct part of the strip to the drop of blood. Thus, meter will display your blood sugar level on the screen. This is how simple it is, and blood sugar level can of course be measured at home. So blood sugar level chart, you should know what your blood sugar level is representing. So if your blood sugar level is about 80 to 100 at fasting, then this means that you are normal. But if it is 101 to 125, if you haven't eaten anything, is that if you are fasting 101 to 125, it means you are pre-diabetic. You'll have to take many precautions. You should take many precautions so that you don't come into this list. And if you're fast and at fasting condition, if your blood sugar level is 126 plus, then you are diabetic. You really need to take care of yourself and your lifestyle. At the condition of just 8, if the blood sugar level is 170 to 200, you come in the normal category. If it is 190 to 230, you come in pre-diabetic condition, and if it is 220 to 300, you come under diabetic. After 3 hours after eating, if your blood sugar level is 120 to 140, you come under normal condition. If it is 140 to 160, you come under pre-diabetic condition, and if it is 200 plus, you can come under diabetic condition. So this is the thing you should know and you should keep in mind. There are various things which you should know again. If you are in a diabetic condition, you'll have to face many serious consequences such as strokes, heart attacks, vision loss, erectile dysfunction, nerve damage, poor circulation to the legs and feet, slow wound healing. So these are very critical situations. To avoid these conditions, keep take care of yourself and measure your blood sugar level once and time again, so that you would not face such a condition. Thank you for attending today's online course. We will meet tomorrow again.